So I guess we're recording now, folks. So good afternoon. I'm John Holderman. Figured I would do the demo tonight on ornaments since it's getting close to Christmas time. Ornaments and Christmassy things. You holding your ears, is there a problem? Okay. Look at him. All right. Can you all hear me now? All right. So we're going to do some talking about ornaments and various things we can do to make ornaments. I'm hoping not to do a lot of turning on ornaments. I'm going to make one, but then we're going to talk about different ways to make them. I don't know if you know Donnie Cheshire. Donnie has been a member of our club for a while, and he makes some gorgeous ornaments. You want to zoom in, Kim? You want to zoom in on this? All right, this is one of Donnie's ornaments. He does some wonderful stuff, and he makes these by gluing things up in patterns, which I'm going to show you in just a second. And he does it with a pin blank or a pin tube in the middle. So when he glues everything up, you put it on a pin mandrel, and you'll turn it that way. Then you make the finials in the top. And it's pretty neat. Donnie has a book out, describes all of his ornaments and things he's made over the years. If you haven't seen any of Donnie's stuff, one down. Take a look at what he does. He does different things. And the way he does these, he's got some jigs that he drills holes in, and he uses acrylics. I'll show you a little bit about this here in a second. So what Donnie does, he takes, did you turn my mic off? Can y'all hear me now? Testing one. All right. So, yeah, all right. What Donnie does is he'll take and he'll drill a hole in the middle of a block. Well, there it is. Where's it at? Drill a hole in the middle of a block, and he'll take holes, Forstner bit, and he'll drill around the outside, and he'll take a piece of wood, make it the same piece, and put it in there like that. When he pours it, this has a little pin tube in it, and he'll pour acrylics in there or various turquoise, other types of rock in there. And then when he turns it, it ends up like this. Really neat little things to do, right? One of the most visionary things to do is people I know with Donnie, the way he does things. He also does things where he'll do the dowels. You'll find dowels and drill holes. And then you got Bodark, and then he'll put acrylic in there, and they put dowels in there. So you got multi-layers. And you notice on the bottom, it doesn't show up. So it's on the top. You can do different halves. I suggest you do get his book. He's about ready to put another one out. It's wonderful turning, wonderful stuff he does with it. Amazon. Well, it'll be out. The new one will be out soon, we hope. But the way he does his stuff is he'll take, can you put the top? This one right here. You see that? So the way Donnie does it, he'll take some of these veneers, and he'll take these two wood pieces, or their two sides, glue them together, and make a half of an ornament in a tube. And then he'll have you can see where he holds these apart, and that's where the tube that just fell out was. And he'll make another set of these and then glue them together. And then he'll cut these this way and make several ornaments. So, like I said, his book is a wonderful little book. He does a lot of really beautiful work. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you go look at his work. I wish we had a museum we could put some of it in, but it's really neat. Donnie Cheshire. There we go, Donnie. I don't have the jigs to do Donnie's work, but I'm definitely going to look at making some of them. He does where he drills holes at different angles, cuts on the bandsaw, on the drill press. A lot of different stuff he's made his own. And if you have never seen any of his carving, wonderful work. He's a wood carver as well. But what we're going to do tonight is start a little easier, baby steps before we get to his level. We're going to take this other piece here. It's another gift from Donnie. So I'm going to use it. It's a piece. What kind of oak is this? Do you know what kind of oak it is? It's a piece of oak, but I chose oak for a couple different things. It dies well and it's porous, so it accepts these little creams from Jimmy Cluse. If you've never used any of this stuff, you can put this on, dye it on top of it or dye on the bottom, and you can get a red with gold specks in it, and it looks like a midnight star or midnight. If you even black with a silver on it, looks like a midnight sky. All different kinds of things you can do with this, with oak and porous wood. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this a little bit, make an ornament. I hollow mine. Not everybody does, but I'm going to do a little bit of hollowing. I use a glue block. Let me go back. I use a glue block on mine so I could get close here and I don't waste a lot of wood. So this is scrap wood that I have off of other projects, and cut little pieces of good wood. So whatever I have left over, I don't really throw it in a little box and use it for things like this. On an ornament, try and make it, I don't like it round. So when I make my shapes, I try and make it flat here. I don't want it really round down here because I'm going to drill through this. So that's why I'm going to hollow from. But I'm not quite round, so I wanted to finish that off. The other thing I don't want to do is I don't want to take a lot of wood off the back. I want mass here because this is a glue block, so I want this to hold on to the wood until I'm almost done at the end. I'll take my Forstner bit and I'll figure out where the final depth is going to be, and I'll mark my Forstner bit with a pen. If you can see that mark, the little green mark is where I made earlier. I need to turn this way down. Sorry about that. There. No, I'm drilling just shy of the waist block. All right. And I apologize about the sniffing. This sinus allergy just got us. So I don't want to get into the waist block because the way I take it off is a little bit different than everybody else. But then I'll what's my other one? The way I hollow, first thing is to remove this knuckle buster over here, elbow buster. I drilled a 5/8 inch hole. So your two bits, 5/8 and 3/8. The hole I'm entering is a 5/8 inch hole. And you can use various ones. I think there's another chuck that had step bits or pin jaws for, let me see where they at here. Zoomed in pretty good. See if I can get this out of the way. All right. If you close these all the way down, you could actually get those in like a 3/4 inch hole. And then you could actually turn this over and drill back from the top. Once you're done this way, you could actually come back, do the other side. So there's various thoughts on that. If you want to finish hollowing from the other side, just touch it up. You can do that. But I like to use the hunter tool. And the one problem with the hunter tool is you want to make sure that you're over the straight part of the tool. You don't want that part of the tool on the tool rest. You want to make sure you're on the straight part. So I hollow this out until I'm down to the part, to the bottom of my drill bit. I don't go any deeper. I don't re-drill that. Make it lighter so you can put it on different parts of the tree. The other thing that I do here is you can make a little, make it into a little box if you want. And that's the other option I was going to show you. If you put a little, when I get down to the bottom, I make about a 1/4 inch tenon before and that's when I do all my sanding. Real light sanding on that 1/4 inch tenon, all the outside. And that tenon can be an insert for a base if you want to make it a box. Make it a cute little box for a piece of jewelry or something, a little gift, or a little prayer box. I make tops for these, little cross tops. You can put on the top like that, make it a little prayer box. So if you have a little gift for a newborn baby or something, say your little wish box or prayer box, say a little prayer, put it in there and seal it up. It'll have it for the rest of her life or his life. Something you can do. Make them. Make them out of, that's blackwood. Blackwood. You need a really dense wood, but they're simple to make, and we can show you how to do those too. They're pretty neat. But they're fun to make, so you can make this into many different things. And there's a lot of people that make these that do a lot of measurement. I haven't got that process down yet. I have made half of an ornament several times. So once I'm down to this point, this is when I take one, and I'll finish this side of it. And I'm going to leave this a little thick right now for a couple of reasons. Sanding is not something that we really like to watch on a video. So I'll make it really quick, but there's a couple things that we want to do. That sanding on the creams and all that coloring. When you make your finials, you really need to decide how big the base of the finial needs to be, right? And when I mean that, a finial is a piece that's going to sit in here like this. So how big is going to be, and then how big the top piece is going to be. So if this is an inch in diameter, this can be a little smaller because we got a smaller hole up there. So I maybe make that 5/8 of an inch. The reason why that's important is I'm going to take this down to just smaller than this. I want strong enough wood so when I put my dyes and my color on there, I'm not breaking the piece. But I've got enough mass in there to actually hold the piece steady. New design element. Now, I also have two different styles of spindle gouges. One is beveled a little different than the other. One is beveled really steep. And that's for this reason. So I can get down in there without having to take a lot of wood off. I can get really deep in there and detail things for this purpose. So I don't have to take a lot of my waste block away. I can use it multiple times. So I can get down in here without hitting this part or that part. All right. So now I can finish my sanding at a slower speed. I'll do 180 and 220. So we've got three different colors here. It's a Christmas thing, so we're going to use red or green. What do you want? Red? All right. I also use nitrile gloves because this is alkaline. It's alcohol based. I use a very small piece of, where am I at? Again, there we go. All right, I use a very small piece of paper towel for the simple fact that I want the dye to be on the wood, not the paper. Right? I'm not trying to dye the paper, I'm trying to dye the wood. I turn it down very slow. Right? So it's a really, really pretty red. And once the lacquer gets on here, it really makes it pop. And I usually just throw all my stuff on the floor because I'm done sweeping up, throw it anyway. I need that alcohol to help me clear my sinuses. I'm sniffing, I'm not drinking. All right. So now I just take and I apply this fairly heavy and I rub it back and forth because I want it to get in all the pores. You can use a big paper towel, small paper towel, doesn't matter. You can use a cloth. We're not turning the lathe on this part, so you can use anything that applies it. But you want to put pressure on it, but you don't want to put a lot of force. You want to get this all down in the pores as good as best you can, as gooder as you can. You also want to make sure you get it down in here where the top is, so you don't see blank spots. You could. I haven't tried that, but you could use any kind of a wax paste that would actually fill the pores or color. Got plenty of choices, yeah. The question was, could we use a Hampshire sheen or another wax? And anything of color or solid material like a wax that hold in there would work. I'm used to this. I'm not used to the Hampshire sheens, but those of you that are. Now, the Hampshire sheen's not designed to be removed like this, is it? Is it? Okay. All right, so you notice how it gets down in there, and if you really want to get more, you can spend more time getting it off. But it gets down in the cracks, like right in here. You can see it really nice. And oak and ash are two of the porous woods that really look nice on this. All right. And if you hit that with some lacquer, it'll make it really shine up, really pretty. Now I'm going to try and finish the turning part of it for the ornament, the body. And I'm going to sand that whole final part up here. This is smaller than a 3/8. Right? No. And I'll tell you, the reason why I don't do it on the lathe is I like to do my finials separate. So what I do is I'll take everything and I'll spray it separately, individual, I'll hang them, or I'll put all the different colors on there, and then I'll put them together and then I'll glue them depending on how I'm doing it, but I always spray afterwards. And the reason why I make that little 1/4 inch hole I've got an ornament with a hole. Perfect. And I don't drop it on the floor when I'm parting it off. Yeah, there you go. All right. So how do we make our finials to put on either end of it? What's the lock on this thing? So this. First of all, we do remove this thing here. Change chucks. You can change chucks or jaws depending on your style of chuck. I like to have a couple chucks where I can have everything set up. And what I like to do with my wood for my finials, this is nothing more than a large pen blank. I like to make them about an inch thick, inch by inch, and I try and make them square. So if I can cut them on the table saw, I will. But if I got a good bandsaw blade, a new one, they'll cut just fine. The reason why I want them square is so all 4 jaws here will touch and it'll be less wiggle. There. And I measure very little on this. The only thing I really measure is the tenons. And I'll show you how when we get down there, we get to measure things. So if you're making these for a family with little children, I would suggest not making them pointed. You can make them a little more rounded. Soften that a little bit so the babies don't get poked. Or you can make them probably got a neat little design on there for that vibration. Yeah. I've seen finials done in multiple different ways, different styles. I like the elongated genie bottle. It just looks nice to me. So it's not necessarily an icicle. It's not necessarily but I can use that on top of a box, or I can use it on icicle on a ornament. But that's the style I've adopted. So what I like to do on making this a real thin neck, I like to introduce a little bit of a taper in there. All the way up to the point. About right here is where the taper goes both ways. Tapers into this. And then that's where it starts tapering back as well. All right. So now transition to a little bulb. And what I'm trying to do here is in this style, 2/3, 1/3 approximate is kind of visually place it. But the other thing I'm trying to do is make this from this point to this point, it should touch all three. So when you look at it, not quite there, but it should transition. These should actually should all touch. This should touch out here. This should touch here and should touch there. So I got it off on this one, but that's the goal of what I'm doing. At the end, I sand at the end. When I sand, I try and sand with a paper. I don't put my finger on the paper and the wood, behind the wood. I let the paper run the sanding. I'll show you that when I get there. The goal on this, not do that, but this side, and I'll play with it a little bit. Just looks too bulky here. This will clean up with 180 very quickly. The goal is to make these two pieces here and here equal size on both sides. And I may have made this a little too small here. Oh, we'll see. Now for the tenant, let's see if we got a tenant on there. A little bit of room, maybe to fix something. If I can fix that. The way I make my tenant, since I've got a 5/8" Forstner bit, I made the hole on the ornament. I use a 5/8" wrench. And I stuck it on the grinder and I made a cutting edge out of it. So now I just there's my tenant. This is what I do to sand. Let the sandpaper do the work. I don't put pressure on the wood with my finger. I put pressure on with the sandpaper. And I'll do that with 180, 220. Some of the other things you can do with these, see if this has enough figure in it when I'm done. We can try something else. Can you get a close up of that, Ken? Nope. Right there. All right. A little more too far. Back just a little bit. All right. So is there enough figure in there? There may be. It depends on what I'm doing. It really depends on the ornament. It could be a contrasting wood, or if I'm doing something like this, I like a curly maple or a figured maple for the reason I'll show you here in just a second. I'm going to use a couple different dyes on it. I'm going to do if you do a multiple dye, use the darker color as the base. You do a light color as the base, the darker color will just wipe right over it. There we go. Put my hand in front of it and turn it up. I want all that excess off and I want it dry as quickly as I can. Get that alcohol out of there. But I don't mean my glasses and my face speckled red. So then I'll come back. And I don't want aggressive sandpaper. So I'm going to try to use something like 320. But I want to knock that red back a little bit. This is where you got to be careful. You see that red line right there, that dark line? You want to try and get that off. By getting that off, you're going to sand through everything. So just be careful when you're sanding. Sometimes you're going to have that, what I'm trying to do is lighten that up a little bit. You can use a tigered as well and get a different effect. All right. Now I've got an amber color, which really equates to a yellow. And I'll come back and I'll dye over top of that red. With a really highly figured wood, Donnie Cheshire had a nice little plate over here and like some flames in it. This will actually look like a burning stick. It'll look flamey, especially when you put the lacquer on it. It'll just make that red and the yellow. And if there's a way to, I'm still trying to figure out how to put some black spots in it, so it looks like burnt coal or something in the background. If you look at that, it's got the red, you put lacquer on that, looks kind of like flaming. It's pretty neat. And when I part this off, and you want to get a close-up up there again? All right, when I part this off, I try and use a tool that I've ground at an angle, a parting tool ground at an angle, because I want an undercut in there, but I want it clean. So if I grind this in there, I get both an undercut and a clean finial. So I just want to undercut that a little bit. Now I can part that off. Jim, you want to catch this for me? All right. And that's going to sit right in there. So, and this way, like I said, I can actually choose. The reason why I don't lacquer everything in the beginning is I can actually, if I don't like this one, I could possibly make some different ones and play around a little bit, figure out what my combination is and put them all together. And then now, how do you make the top? Do I have a top here? Yeah. Top is made the same way. And I'll spare you the sanding and dyeing and all that, but we'll just go through the process of making one real quick. I usually make a little ball on mine. I try not to make them too long. Yep. This side's going to fit a 3/8 inch hole, so I make it a little smaller. Again, I just use a wrench. There's my 3/8 inch hole. I do a little undercut. And before I part it off on the top, what I like to do is I put a little dimple right here, center. And I use a 1/16 inch drill bit and a little portable drill. And I go all the way through. I have my other part. There it is. On this one, on the bottom, I don't really care, but on the top, I want the bottom of this fairly clean. And sometimes I'll even sand it. That's going to be, where's my ornament at? If it doesn't fit, which sometimes it doesn't, your Forstner bit and your may be different sizes just a little bit. The way you make those adjustments is you'll take some 180 grit sandpaper, you roll it up, make like your old cowboy rolling an old cigarette. You can, the other way to do it, you go to white side and you have a router bit and a wrench, a cutting tool for like a wrench. They'll make you one. White side will make you almost anything. But if you're different sizes, the way to make them fit is you can do this, or you can, if it's a bigger hole like this bottom and you need to make it quite a bit, you can take a dowel, put it in a drill, put a slot, and then fold this in half, stick it in your drill, fold it around, and kind of just use your drill to ream that out. But it makes small, it works on small increments. And that fits just perfect. Just a really quick and easy, and it won't fall out. So that way you can adjust it real slowly with sandpaper. But yeah, and sometimes if you find out your wrench, it's cut smaller than your Forstner bit. So what you do is you stop just shy of cutting through, and then again, adjust your hole slightly. So there's ways to make it fit. Now the neat little thing is on the top, I like to make my ornament spin. Nope. So what I do is I make my own. You got to be careful what you buy. I buy paper clips. Some of the paper clips have these little, looks like someone took some pair of dikes and put a bunch of nicks in them. Those, they break real easy. So get the ones, the clean ones. You can find them at any store. And you got jeweler's pliers. Jeweler's pliers are round. There's no marks on them whatsoever. Take those. There's your, all right. Where you go? I'm trying to find your, all right. All right. So that's centered. Then I've got a pair of, I don't want to call them needle nose, but flat pliers that have no teeth on them. And I'll flatten this out straight. Stick this down through the bottom. And I'll wrap this around this way. And I'll make sure that this piece that I cut off does not poke in the bottom of the wood. So the cutoff piece is pointing down. Let's see here. All right. Then I'll cut this off down here. Then this spins freely. And that way you got everything about your ornament is homemade. Right. The other thing that I like to do is Charlie called me the other day about this, to make the hangers for it. How do you display them? Christmas time, you put them on the Christmas tree. What do you do the rest of part of the year? I'll show you those. You can make Christmas tree hangers, and you can make these singularly, or you could make a Christmas tree that holds multiple, like this one. The way I'll make them singularly, or I make them this way, same thing. You go to your dry cleaners and you ask them, do you have any old wire hangers? You'll probably throw half of this inventory at you. They don't like wire hangers for some reason. They get them, they don't reuse them. I think I've got 150 at home. This guy just threw them at me. So what I do is I'll get one that comes out. They come out at home so easy. Again, you take your jeweler's pliers, you make your little loop on the end. You poke it here, and then you wrap it around a little vise, and that's how you get your curve. And you get it consistently. So you make one of these, then they're all going to be the same. Since they're all going to have the same bend back, once you bend them, then you all make them the same length. It's all going to be equal. Drill your holes. The way I drill my holes in here is once this is on the lathe, I use my indexing tool to index 8 of them around the. So if you got a 24 index, you can make a 6 or an 8, depending on how many holes you want to skip. To make a singular one, I just make a bigger one. I make a base like this, and I drill a single hole. The wire comes up a little bit bigger than this, depending on how big I want it, and it hangs so you can display it as a single unit. But it's the same basic concept. You make these big or small, however you want to do it. That's a simple thing to make, just a couple pieces of wood. You can use MDF, you can use anything out of it. The fun part is making the hanger. This is the fun part. It's okay. I've crashed that several times. Where do I have my longer pieces? If you want to practice the skew, you can practice the skew. If you want to practice with another tool, you can do that. Do I have I've got a poker here. You can center it, or you can just make it a regular piece. I like to do mine offset. So I'll take mine and I'll make a nice little, I don't know, measure your ornament, see how tall you want. Charlie, you said something about a double decker. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll do that Saturday. I'll show you how to do that. But you can offset it. I won't go through in that tonight, but you can do an off center. And see if you can do it like this. Can you see that? You can do an off center. You can do a regular straight one. The good thing about this is once you get this part down, you make a large diameter, almost a plate. drill little holes around the outside. Now you got a little earring hanger for your daughter, your wife, or whatever. You can do all kinds of things with these old bases. This is actually a piece of 2x4. So you'll take a 2x4 and you'll cut 1.5 inch. That's what this is. And you'll take the full width, stick it on the lathe, and turn a little plate out of it. Take a tenon, pop it in there. It's a neat little display thing. One more thing we'll show you tonight. Where am I? We made ornaments. The next thing is Christmas trees. These are the fun things. Now I'm going to show you two different ways to make these. Make them with a skew, and you can make them with other tools. All right. My favorite tool is a skew, as far as this goes. Wait. Okay. You got to make the shape of a Christmas tree. All right. Make sure it's all round. So you got your general Christmas tree here, shape. Now you want to put the leaves on it. At this point, it's all fuzzy. What you want to do, I'm not going to do it here. This is not my lathe. Take your green paint, paint it, let it set there for a little bit, dry a little bit, and then you can finish it. But then you got a green Christmas tree. The good thing about that little thing is when you're done, all the leaves are green. The bottom is the natural wood color, because then you're going to cut that off. So everything down here is going to be natural color. Well, it happened. There we go. The piece. I'll tell you something about the skew. You're going to have those moments. Don't be afraid of them. It's a tool. It's a chuck, right? That's what scares people about the skew. But if you're afraid of it, you'll never touch it. Pick it up and learn from it, right? I will when I get a fresh piece of wood on, because I can do it with a cylinder a lot easier than I can with this. And it'll work because I can slow it down. Yeah. And it does happen so fast. My intuition told me bring a second skew. So I did. That one chipped. All right. Some lays really are really tight, some aren't. Now, where's my other parting tool? I'm going to come back in here, undercut it. A Christmas tree. It's a mangy Christmas tree. Now, how do you do this with a different tools? There we are. We'll make our cylinder. I'll show you the skew issue. All right, so there's a cylinder. Sure, get the right skew. Yep, that's not going to work. No, I used a skew on the first one. That was a spindle gouge, just to round it off. So Charlie wanted to see how we make a catch with a skew. Oh, okay. So I see the tree texture. Oh. All right. Or what happened. So I can show you the next tool will make it a lot easier and why it really happened. I'll show you exactly why. I'm going to use another tool. Where is it? All right. This is a wide parting tool. And the reason, the whole idea from this came when I was using this tool to part something off with. When I was parting something off, I slipped like that. I didn't get a straight cut. And if you notice, it's fuzzy. So what's happening is that little tip right there is cutting into the wood and raising an unclean, the grain is making the grain very unclean the whole way down. So I started practicing just using that tip. And you notice that's where you get the fuzz from. So if I make the same angle or the same tree with a spindle gouge, which is a lot easier for most people to use, now I can come back here with a parting tool and just at an angle. And I'm just digging a little bit. And that's how you raise that fuzz up, is that little corner at an angle, or as it's moving across the wood, it's not cutting cleanly, so it raises that fuzz up. And that's where it comes from. And then to part it, make the bottom, again, it's just, you'd spray it. make a smaller tree. I always try to make the base smaller than the top of the tree. Right one, there it is. Lost it for a minute. Undercut it. It's still a little too big for my eyes. Another tree from a different tool. That was off the, sometimes every piece of wood is different. I get some that are really perfect. The other things, I haven't really touched my lathe in a few months. So the more practice you get, the better you are. So it happens with practice and the piece of wood, kind of a combination. This is actually popular. It's the best wood I found. Hardwood doesn't work so well. You can get the fuzz on it, but when you try to do it with these pieces, it'll catch on you. It'll have little problems. But a softwood or a good hard piece of poplar will work great. Some of the softer poplars are little, they do this, they look mangy if you're not practiced. But those are some things to do with Christmas. Like I said, you can make, take your finials, make little boxes. This is not quite the right size. I need a bigger box for this cross, but you can make little crosses out of it. Christmas is a time that really needs to be celebrated, especially in today's, right? We need to make more of it. So make things for Christmas, ornaments, boxes, gift boxes, wish boxes, prayer boxes, what do you want to call them? Make things up and enjoy it. Way I make these crosses is I'll make this piece like this. If you can zoom in on that. This one right here. Can you zoom in on that? All right, there we go. So you make it, it's round. And then the way I do it is I take a piece of wood and I cut a V in it, or a couple pieces of wood, and I'll cut a V. So I clamp it right here. Or clamp it right here. So the two pieces of wood, a V on this side and a V on that side. Now clamp it so it's tight, it holds this base real tight. So when I cut, and I need to make sure I know which way the grain's running. So if the grain is running this way, I want to cut this way. I never cut against the grain, cut with the grain, right? So you clamp that piece and you make sure you're right up tight to the bottom here. And if you can get that piece in a bandsaw, it's fine. Or you can take a nice little dovetail saw or a small saw and cut it. Then what you do is, this one really isn't finished, but you can take, it's a little thicker here, but you can take a Dremel tool and you can do some carving on it, or you can, how do you want to say, concave it a little bit. You can do all kinds of decorating in it if you want. And you can cut the little flat, like that's flat, or you can leave it round, the little piece on the top. Oops. That's, yes. So if this is the grain, can you get a picture of this, Ken? If this is the grain, I'm cutting this way. So the grain is from tip of the cross to tip of the cross is long grain. If I cut this way, what's going to happen is that piece is going to break off real quick. It's going to snap. But any other questions? I think that's about all I can do tonight. But yep. You can do that too. There's various ways. One other way I forgot to tell you is this is really neat, because what I've done is just put dye in the bottom little bowl, set it in there, and let it soak up. You can see that it's come all the way through. So when I cut this, I'm hoping to have the capillaries or the veins have the dye in it with the wood. It'll look like stripe. I did a pin that way and it come out really, really nice. I'm still trying to find a way that I can take a nice piece of wood like this and get this all the way in it. So I'm trying to work on a vacuum chamber that I can actually suck all that dye up in all the way in the wood. But I don't know if a pressure pot would push it in or a dye would pull all the air out and suck it out one way or the other. Yeah, we tried it various ways. That's what that makes sense to me, but not everything is intuitive. I've seen things work backwards. So, but yeah, you vacuum, and that's my thoughts, but I haven't been able to play with a pot that I can. I'm looking for something I don't have to go and spend a couple $300 on a pot. I can actually make out of PVC or something at home. The only problem I have with that is the dye may be separated. I need something that this will set in the dye where the dye will be pulled up in it. So this will set upright, and the vacuum will just the air will be pulled out of the capillaries and suck it up in there. That's my thought anyway. That might be a vacuum jar. That might work too, because I'm looking for a chamber that seals nice. Because I've got a couple of vacuum pumps. Right, I've got one that I use on my lathe, and thank you, Dale, who provided me with another one. But this is what I'm looking to try and do with this. Couple days. Let's test it. I'm curious. I'd like to see. I'd like to see. We can test that theory. In one sense, I've got another project I want to do off lathe that that it's not really lathe. One of my star projects that I'm looking to do this with. You see what we've got here. I can see in there where the veins are red, right? So when you put lacquer or some kind of coating on that, that's really going to pop. But it's only going to go up so far, right? So I can only, it's great for like an ornament or something like that. But my whole goal is to do this where I can glue two pieces together and have contrary colors like school colors, where you can put like yellow and purple or whatever you want to put together and then use that for it. What's that? No, I believe this is ash. Yeah, I believe it's ash. But that actually come out pretty good. So, yeah. And I found out the same thing happened with the pin blanks down at the bottom. Yeah, it was all red the first little bit. But after that, the capillary is just kind of covered. But I don't think it goes as far as I really want it to. That's what I'm looking for. Heating the wood up or the dye? Okay. Try that. They said heat the liquid and the wood up to about 150. And then when you do put it in the vacuum pump, it'll suck it all the way through. But I've tried with a PVC built rig, and it really doesn't. I have not been able to get a good vacuum on it where it pulls all the air out. So I did talk to Chuck Wagner at SWAT. He said something called dragon skin. And it's a silicone-like piece. You squirt around the bottom of his, he makes the cactus juice vacuum sealers. So if you put that dragon skin around the bottom of that and seal it with that, it makes a good tight seal. I haven't tried that yet, but it's a silicone type thing. So I'm going to play with it and see if I can get it all the way through, and that's what I'm looking for. But I don't want it completely red. I just like the capillaries and make it kind of a fancy little thing. But that'd make a cute little box, doing it. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll bring it in Saturday and do that. Anything else? All right. Good deal, guys.